don't practice toughness. Dude, you have to practice toughness. Man, if you're not in a fist fight every day, scraping and crawling and doing everything you can to win a game, and you're just going about your business being a finesse team, you will get your faces kicked in. They don't fight for anything in Miami. They just think they're good because they're Tyreek Hill. Okay? Hey, once again, you see people like LJ getting mad at me for quarterback's comments. I didn't say these things. This guy's just got an ass for me on my takes. That's too bad, dog. It's really too bad you feel that way. You got a lot of people I wouldn't say a lot. You got about 2 or 3 people or what have you in Philadelphia that go after messengers instead of going after organizations. Stop blowing Jalen and Howie. This is about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's not about winning 11 games or winning the East even. This is about championship talk. What do you think I'm talking about? Going to the Sun Bowl? Ten and 1. You know, every time I knew there were some people in here that subscribed to mediocrity or half stories or half truths. Got to tell the whole story. It's like part of our country. They like to hear half the bullshit and all the good shit. Want to hear what made us great. All right. Moving our boy up in the rotation here. So Mariano's got to come in instead of in the 9th inning. Mariano Rivera's got to come in the 8th inning here. And we got to bring our boy who's doing a spectacular 65. And it is Zander Krause. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Big Sills? How you doing, man? Happy Friday to you. Happy good mini camp week for Big Sills on the National Football Show.
Hey, man, I'll tell you what, a lot of content this week.
Tons of content this week. This was a Big Sills week for minicamp. Good stuff on Birds 365, too. A lot of good content all over the network this week, all over Philadelphia. Good to see everybody in the chat. We dropped out for a second there, Sills. I don't know what happened on YouTube, but we dropped out, so we're back.
Good, okay.
People are ripping me. I'm like, come on, man. I don't control YouTube. I'm just trying to punch the keys here.
I know who it is. It's BL, but it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll work around. It's Howie. Hey, I'll tell you what, man. One thing I really got to say to everybody in the Philadelphia market, you're welcome on our content from both shows. You guys are all welcome. Hey, IP, you're welcome. Jesus criminy. We say it here. It gets regurgitated over the next 2 days. Why is Bradbury on the team? Does anyone know? Hey, wait a minute. Jalen didn't do his coach any. Okay, you're welcome. Anyway, I want to throw that number at you first here before we go into some of the takeaways from this week in camp. 95% means what to you after you're listening to it 24 hours after Jalen Hurts said it? What's your now takeaway with a brand new offense that he's going through for another year?
From an offensive perspective, I think it's a good thing, because one of the problems we talked about before this comment was meshing of two offenses, Kellen and Nick. How is that going to work? Who's the leader of the offense per se? We now know that answer. It's not Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni is the head coach. This is Kellen Moore's offense. And from a football perspective, I think that's better. I don't like the idea of Kellen and Nick both contributing to the offense. If Kellen's your guy, if he's your offensive coordinator, bring him in and let him call the offense. So I like it from that perspective. The other takeaway I have on it is, and it's really a takeaway from the whole week, actually, but this is one of my biggest takeaways from the whole week. The pressure in the Philadelphia Eagles locker room is about to burst like a pipe, or it's going to work. It's one or the other. But the quarterback does not feel the pressure like the head coach feels. That 95% comment is like there's going to be problems on the offense. Give us a little bit of time. He probably saw everybody talking about how bad the offense has been. He's like, whoa, 95% new offense. We're still learning out here. We're not going to look great. Meanwhile, Nick Sirianni is like, boy, this better work. But Jalen doesn't feel that because Jalen's not going anywhere. And that's kind of where I think the disconnect is with the two guys of Jalen is comfortable in his chair. He knows he's not going anywhere. And I don't know how much he loves Nick. Now,
How about this?
Maybe I think he likes Nick more than we're giving him credit for. But I don't know if he cares if Nick's.
I don't think liking him has anything to do with it. How about this?
Respecting him.
Respecting him. I don't think he does that as a coach. I think he likes him. But here, now what you're getting too, and this is why I think Nick is going to be on the hot seat here a little bit more, is because, get this, dude, you have players now in A.J. Brown and Devontae basically telling you last year's offense was with handcuffs all over the place on it. We really didn't like it. And then you've got Brandon Graham saying the coaches sucked a year ago. So that's an indictment on his office and his locker room. Okay? They're feeling freer to say that. You know why? Because they know he doesn't have the autonomy in the locker room that he had a year ago, because that's been stripped from him and given to Vic and to Kellen. Do you feel that way?
I absolutely 100% feel that way. 100%. I don't think anybody can deny it. And I pushed with on Birds this morning about it. And, John's like, look, he's a CEO head coach. They're fine with that. And I'm like, really? He was hired to be a play caller. And then he went from play caller to non-play caller. And then it went from his offense with Brian Johnson to now it's 95% new. Like, the seat is hotter for Nick Sirianni in Philly than anybody else. Remember, there's a lot of people in here who are like, oh, Jalen doesn't deserve to feel comfortable. He needs to have a good year too. Well, I agree. We go as far as Jalen, but they're not cutting Jalen. They're not trading Jalen. The cap hit for moving on from Jalen Hurts is $100 million. That is not feasible to do. You'll deplete your entire team.
29.
So it's Nick Sirianni. This is all on Nick Sirianni. And I almost am like feeling for him now, because I'm like, if you don't have your quarterback in your corner, like, who is in your corner? It should be you and your quarterback versus everybody in a way. Like, we're going to get this thing going. Whether you're with us right now or not, we're going to show you why. And it kind of feels like they're going in two different directions. I don't feel great about Nick. I feel good about the defense. That's my other big takeaway from the week, is I think the defense is going to be better. I think Vic Fangio is the voice, it sounds like, we needed in that locker room. The adult in the room, if you will. Everybody knows who the boss is. So I think that's great. I asked John this morning, one of my biggest takeaways from the defense is Darius Slay going to be in the trade block? Like, Howie is a forward-thinking GM, right? We talk about it all the time. He's a very forward-thinking guy. He's holding out he's moving Bradbury to safety so he can secure a 7th-round pick. But listen, is he going to sit there and cut a 23, 24-year-old corner who had experience last year, and maybe Eli Ricks, if he doesn't? I mean, it's a numbers thing, right? Like, Eli Ricks might not, or Josh Jobe, who's a special team savant. Is he going to move on for them for another year of Darius Slay? Like, I don't know. I think that could be an option where he's looking.
I just think,
I know we talked about it yesterday and you didn't
have to have some experience back there, dude.
Yeah, but
because if you get rid of him and you get rid of Bradbury, you have nobody with any game experience.
Nick and Howie got two different jobs. If I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm like, I need experience back there. If I'm Howie Roseman, I'm like, can I get a 4th-round pick?
I would be more on that side of the football thinking not what Howie wants. I would be thinking what Vic wants. Yeah. On that side.
Remember, we're playing a heavy zone back.
That's why I think Bradbury makes sense.
Defensive coverages and with Vic Fangio are very zone heavy. So it's not like I'm asking a bunch of youngsters to go up there and play press cover. They're not. And they're all playing as good as they are right now. I just think it's something worth thinking about, right? I mean, the defense is playing this great. Nobody expected this many cornerbacks to be stepping up. Now it's just helmets and shorts. We'll see. You talked about Isaiah Rodgers. The one thing with Isaiah Rodgers is
I'm hearing he's going to start.
Yeah, but he's a guy that you have to see it when the pads are on, because
I agree.
The one thing he struggled with when he was in Indy was tackling and physicality. Yep. So, helmets and shorts is built for the game without physicality. So we'll see with him, but I'm optimistic on the defense.
But in his zone, you're not asked to go around there knocking too many heads. You're more of a guy that's going to get guys on the ground and not being a physical. You don't have to be physical in that, Nick. and that Vic Fangio defense in the secondary. I think that's what really rubbed Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey wrong last year, was because those guys couldn't be physical, because that's part. Ramsey's physical, dude. When he was in Los Angeles with the Rams, he's a press corner. He's not a center fielder like they played in 22. So,
and if Vic Fangio had Darius Slay when he was 28, he'd be saying the same thing.
Right.
Darius Slay was a press cover corner back then too. Now he's evolved more into his own guy because he's 33. Can't blame him for that. But I'll tell you what, though, the Vic Fangio thing, and you bring up the Dolphins, that makes me love the Eagles. I love Philly. Like, these guys, every single one of them, from Jordan to Jalen to Slay to all the defensive guys who spoke, they're all like, I like this dude. He's a all football kind of guy. No bullshit. Meanwhile, in Miami, it's like, pick a guy out of the defense, out of a hat, and they're going to complain about Vic Fangio. Like,
Country club.
All right, dude. Yep, exactly. It's like, come on. So I love the Philly element of that, where it's just like, come on, man. We're not
South Beach.
Yeah,
they got a South Beach mentality down there, where everyone's running around in a thong and everybody's up here in a hard hat.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I like too, because he's more of a hard hat guy. Those guys walk around in guy thongs.
Yeah. Right.
How about this one here, dude? I think this is a bigger deal, and even the Inquirer said it. Man, did he put his head coach in a really tough position when he didn't back him, and he just didn't really
kind of throwing us off.
Wanted nothing to do with really him. I mean, he kind of threw him on an island. I mean, I don't know of any situation in the NFL where you see that dynamic work. Even Mike Zimmer, when he was in Minnesota and it came out where he was having problems with Cousins, they moved off of Zimmer the next year. They fired him at the end of the year. I mean, that doesn't work, dude, when your coach and your quarterback are not on the same page.
Yeah, it's definitely troublesome. I mean, I do think it's easy to over-exaggerate it when we're so zoomed into it. Like, if you look across the league, there are certain relationships with coaches where
this is a 3-year thing.
No, it's more the respect thing for me. Like, I don't need, like you just said, I don't need you to like me. I don't need to be best friends with you, but I got to respect your vision for the football team, and if I don't have that, then how can I ride with you? And I'm kind of sensing a lack of that from Jalen Hurts, where he was throwing a total softball to it was almost like the question was
teed up for him.
It was teed up into the question, like, oh, Nick's evolving, and like he just totally didn't give him anything. And I'm like, the other thing that's interesting about the 95% comment is Jalen is he doesn't give much to the media.
Nope.
So when he does give something, that he did want to do it, or he did it for a reason. It was kind of I went back and listened to it after we talked yesterday. It was a little condescending toward Nick, I would say.
He mentioned Brian Johnson more in that better light than he mentioned Nick.
It's a weird dynamic. The coaching dynamics in Philly right now are odd. I gotta be honest. I mean, look, I hope it works out. I'm not saying I'm not optimistic to some extent, but I will say Nick is great cause for concern. I don't know if he has the voice of the locker room. We'll see. I'm hopeful that he can, because what do you need Nick to do this year, right? Like, you technically don't. Exactly. So it's not like we can't be successful with him. If he can stay out of the way, if he can be the CEO we need him to be, where you have your hands on a couple different things, but you're not overwhelming in a certain area, I still think we can be successful. But I do worry. And I asked this question to John. Let's see I know what your answer is going to be, but I still want to ask you. If the Eagles have a top 5 offense this year, and the Eagles let's just say the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say whether they win or not. That's a different conversation. Let's just say they go to the Super Bowl. Who's the more valuable coach inside the Eagles locker room? Nick Sirianni or Kellen Moore?
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, but Dan, they're not going to fire a coach who went to the Super Bowl two times in 3 years.
Good luck then next year. And
I know, I'm just saying.
This is why I think you're asking the wrong question. You're asking the wrong question.
Okay,
what's more important to you? Jalen Hurts' development and his success, or Nick Sirianni as a head coach in Philly?
Yeah, well, that's an easy answer. I'm just saying.
It's Kellen Moore.
This is why I say it's a tough situation, though, because no owner is going to fire a head coach who went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, whether he won or not. That doesn't matter. 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. They're not going to fire him. But I think it's obvious to everybody Kellen would be the more valuable person because he got the offense back on track. So it's a tough situation. The coaching situation right now in Philly is odd. I think it's odd. That's my best word for it.
Somebody threw a super chat out
Oh,
there, and
let's
they
look
wanted
at
to throw you some love there too a little bit. So I want to make sure we get that up there.
Jameson, shout out to Jameson. He says, shout out to Zander. Dude's the real. She going places. Also, Johnny Sins might as well our coach. Dude would just screw us like Nick is now. That's a bold one, Jameson.
Dude, I like I said, man, odd is an understatement right now. I've never seen a quarterback given T-ball stuff and never, ever take a swing at it. And get this, it's almost, but I will say this too, Zander, if you go back and you even listen to him talking about the current offense, Jalen Hurts didn't even give Kellen his flowers in a way because he said, all new, it's too early to tell whether I like it or not. I'll paraphrase that, but he did say it's too early, and he said, I don't know Nick's role. So he was not giving anything to Kellen or to Nick. I mean, it's a really odd way of expressing yourself as a quarterback by not backing the coordinator. Can I tell you what I think is starting to rear its head here with Jalen? And I think Angelo brought this up. I think he's getting sick and fucking tired of that revolving door of coordinators, new offenses. I think it's wearing him out a little bit because you know what's the one thing that we say? Every great Zach Taylor has been the coordinator for Burrow for 3 years. The guy in Kansas City's got the same guy. Purdy's got the same guy. All the rest of these guys have all continuity. The only guy who's one of the top-level quarterbacks who doesn't have continuity is the guy in Philly.
Yeah.
And you want to change that out next year if he has success.
I don't know if we can give lenience to Jalen on this. You got to get over it, man. If you're going to be successful in the NFL, you're going to lose coaches. Every coach in the NFL that coaches a team to a Super Bowl is on the coaching block. Every coordinator. If your team makes it to the to your conference championship game, your coordinators are up for a head coaching job. I don't care if they're calling plays or not. So he's got to get over that, man. You're making $50 million. And real quick though, to give him credit. That's why I like the one thing he said at the end of the in that press conference. I want to learn this offense and then I want to make it mine. And that's what we need. He's going to be the only continuous door. If he can take something from each spot to now when we have a coordinator come in, it's not 95% new. That's where you want to be. Because I think
really like that at June 7th. I mean, so we got 50 days to camp. I hope he picks it up by then. By the way, we had another super chat there, Zander. Let's see. We don't want to miss these guys. These guys have been really great today, and we appreciate it.
New one every year, Des. Yeah, new one every year.
Yeah, every year. And dude, he's had it, and then you can look at the head coach.
He had a new one when he left Bam, obviously, because he went to Oklahoma. I mean, he's dealt with tons of coaches. So that's why I'm almost. Is it an excuse? You tell me. Is it a viable excuse?
Not an excuse, but it's
each coordinator you have is going to make you expand your game. It's going to make you learn more and be a better quarterback.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think if they were changing out every year, Brady, do you think his progression in New England would be fast or slow? Or how about this? If Tom Moore wasn't the OC for 12 years in Indianapolis for Manning, and he had a coordinator every other year, this is what I'm saying it does. I'm saying that your growth level, it goes in spurts like this. When you have one guy that's been in the building, I think you grow a little bit more as a player, and you grow a little faster as a player.
Look what Hurts did.
Look at what they did a year ago. They had non-qualified coaches in the building with him last year, and he regressed.
Yeah, and look what they did the year before that. It was the second year with Kellen Moore, and he was successful.
Well, then you want to take that gamble that he'll go backwards.
I don't want to take the gamble. I think the Eagles are going to. I don't think they're going to move on from Nick Sirianni if we have a successful season.
How about this? Is it possible to have this conversation? If Jalen Hurts has regressed a little bit as a quarterback, Nick Sirianni since 22 has regressed immensely as a coach in that building. Do you not agree?
I do agree. And they've proven it by taking away more and more of his responsibilities every year.
They're adding for Hurts like Saquon Barkley. They are trying to help him, but at the end of the day, they're taking away from the coach.
Yeah, they've gone backwards on on Nick Sirianni's role every single year. That's why, look, he's the number one problem. Not problem. He's the number one question. I'm not going to forget that he brought us to a Super Bowl. He was still the head coach of that football team. And it's not like we're talking about Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon were great. But like, I'm not going to hang the Super Bowl on them. Come on. It was a full effort. I thought Nick was a good coach that season. I thought he handled adversity well in season. Remember, they kind of all really rallied around Nick because he had that goofy start. He had the goofy start to the year, 2-5. They went to the playoffs the next year. And then it was like coming into the next season, everybody rallied around him. I'm not feeling that going into this year. I'm hoping we can get it back out, though.
Did Chip Kelly regress as a coach in Philly? Those first 2 years, he won 20 games.
Yeah, he was a 10-win, 10, and the last year, what was his record on the way out the door? It's like 4 and something. No, I mean, definitely. But Chip Kelly, I can't compare to Chip Kelly. He was an abomination. He
did bring Stoutland in.
Yeah, okay, that was good. But
he brought in Lane. Listen, his bedside manner blows. Plus the whole thing with Deshaun Jackson. Now let's move on to that. I want to throw a few things at you here before you got to go here. I took this away this week. Hey, dude, I think that Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey leadership thing is going to be a pretty big thing to watch this year, and who steps up as a leader in that locker room. Because you said this yesterday. Can Brandon Graham really lead from second or third team this year? Now, he's built a ton of equity up over the years. Could he probably say something? But then again, I'm a little doubtful because he didn't say shit last year. Who's that guy going to be? I'm liking what I'm hearing with Mulata. Does Lane have to have a bigger role this year? Who's going to be that guy this year that is going to take that baton? And we're hoping it's the quarterback, but he had a shot this week to be a leader, and he didn't want it.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. That was a failed attempt at being a leader. Whether he likes Nick or not, or respects him or not, he is the coach of the football team, and there's leadership that you have to have there, and take accountability and own that. And you're right, he didn't. But it has to be Jalen on offense. It has to be, because I think it's going to be A.J. Brown more than you want to give him credit for. I think he is a good leader because what's the best way to lead in the NFL?
Production.
A.J. Brown is the most productive player on that football team. He shows up to every OTA. He shows up to all the practices. He shows up. He's built. He does everything right from a football standpoint. You have knocks on him, and I know you don't want – that's the truth. A.J. Brown is a great professional. He's a great player. He does a great job. So that's natural leadership on that offense. Outside of that, though,
I probably should love him because he talks so much shit. So I mean,
I think Lane Johnson's going to be a leader out there.
I don't know if that's in his DNA to be that kind of guy, but I'd like for him to chirp a little more. I mean, I think Mulata. I'm hearing more Mulata going like this. Hey, Becton, man, I endorse him. When I heard that, I was like, hey, man,
yeah, that was cool.
That was pretty cool.
I like Becton. I think Becton's.
Me too. I think he's a player.
He does like that left side. So I get, hey man, there's no spots over on that left side. I tell you what I would
do though? If I was his agent, I'd go, let me have a reality check with you. You want a contract extension, stay in Philly for the next 7-8 years? You want to make $20 million? Yeah. Play that right guard spot.
Yeah, and they'll probably kick him out. I mean, Lane Johnson has how many years left? Maybe 1 or 2. You think 3?
2, 3.
I think
depending on what he wants to do.
Yeah, we'll see what he ends up doing, but it's not forever. Lane is not a 25-year-old dude, so it's that's a position where I could see Becton filling in too.
Kellen Moore, I'd like to see him move around a little bit more motion to help Hurts out, because here's what I say to you: Hurts is not really a pocket presence quarterback yet. Let him develop it. Move guys around more, man. Have a little bit more guys in slot positions, more motion. If Jalen can't move people around and is struggling reading defenses, I told you this. Montana struggled for the first 6 years of his career. Who's Jalen Hurts? I mean, he's no Montana.
That's a product of the modern world.
Move guys around a little more to create it, as long as it doesn't get too confusing. And see, this is what I think happened in the passing game. John said something that Zander, to me, I would have pounced on. You know what it was? He goes, they don't even have the running game in. That's the problem. They have half the offense that they're trying to install, and he's struggling. They haven't even put the entire playbook in yet because nobody knows what that run game's going to look like.
You're right. It's a good point. I will say they're going to do more motion, though. And so Hurts is going to have to pick it up. I said to John, like, they're not out there enough for him to learn a 95% new offense altogether. Now, he's going to be working, obviously, on his own time. But, you know, you're right. I mean, but they will be running more motion. You heard what Devontae Smith said. That was an interesting comment, too. I mean, from a guy that's pretty quiet overall, doesn't like to ruffle many feathers. He goes,
only Big Sills can ruffle them.
He used the word allowed. Like, we weren't allowed to move around last year. In other words, like, you know,
because they were telling them
where like a kid
go.
in timeout, you know, go on the outside and stay out there.
You know what he did? He validated a take of mine. You know what that was? They were telling Jalen Hurts where to throw the ball, and they were telling them where to throw the ball. That's exactly what Devontae did by validating that, by saying that.
Yeah, you're right. And that
because there's no handcuffs.
But I view that as a good thing, right? It's not a good thing for the past, but I think it's a good thing for the future. I want A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith moving around. And to your point, you've been talking about it. A.J. Brown in the slot, he's going to wreak havoc on defenses.
Against a safety?
Against a safety. I mean, if they get that matchup, it's all day over, all day long. So, you know, I think that's where I think Kellen is going to be the best, good at. I think that's going to be his best add to the offense is getting guys in better positions, improving the passing game. I'm hopeful that Hurts really rises up and can do what he's asked, you know, throwing the ball over the middle, take any dump offs when the defense gives you it, you know, AJ in the slot. So, but I think he will. I mean, the 2022 Hurts doesn't worry me at all. The 2023 Hurts doesn't worry me until post week 13 when the leadership slipped, nothing else happened. He couldn't get the team back on the rails. That's the guy I'm worried about because that's the most recent guy. But look, the Hurts that won.
I think some of that stuff's carried over though because of Nick being in the room.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, Hurts was 27-2 going through a week, 11 games last year. The guy was on a tear. So I'm confident he can still do what we need him to do to get there.
Couple last questions for you. I heard that Will Shipley, man, the last 6 weeks, he was getting better and better at catching passes. They were trying to implement him more. He looked better. And by the way, by the end of the mandatory OTAs, he was taking reps away from Kenny Gainwell. Now, I don't know what that means right now. Again, it's the passing game. We'll see what he does when he has to carry the ball in between the tackles. But I don't know. Could there be a role on this team for him?
Yeah, he struggled at Clemson catching the ball too, and he had drops and fumbles. That was his two big.
I thought his junior year he wasn't that bad. I thought his senior year he was, especially in the first 6 games. I didn't think that Clemson team was very good.
No, they were not very good. But I'm talking about specifically him dropping the football, and fumbling the ball. So
yeah,
it doesn't seem like he was a sure-handed guy. Now I think he'll be good. I don't think he's going to have much of a role though this year. I think Saquon's going to be is your first true 3-down back you've had in a while. So I'm really interested to see how they're going to use Saquon. Like, is it bell cow back? Is it some in the passing game? I know he can do more, but how are they going to use him?
I think it's 900 yards rushing and 600 yards receiving.
Dude, if he has 600 yards receiving, though, that's a big change from Jalen.
I mean, from DeAndre.
No, from Jalen.
Oh, from Jalen.
Throw the ball to running back.
Oh, I think that's what they envision. They want like 50 catches out of him. I think it's like 50 catches.
I just wish we would bring in. I would be perfectly fine with that if the running back number 2 wasn't Kenny Gainwell and it was a north to south guy. Get downfield. We just don't have that.
Like a LeGarrette Blount guy.
Yeah, now I'm dreaming over here. So I know it's not going to happen, but.
Here's Prince here. Jalen will be fine. Vic is pushing him at each practice. They have a great relationship as well.
Guys are killing it on the super chats today, man. Thank you guys. That goes a long way in helping the channel. So we do appreciate when you guys drop the super chats, man. We have the best viewers, Dan. We really do.
Absolutely, we do, man. And by the way, as what I like, I think it's the best responses, even from the people that are the dissenters, in my opinion. That's totally what I love the most. 200 likes is what we're looking for. We really appreciate it. Last one here for you. I got to tell you, man, this Zach Bond guy is going to be a starter.
Seems like it's Vic's guy. Vic is giving him a lot of kudos. Vic talks about him, and every time he's talked, he's gotten a bunch of reps with the first team. So that's the question at linebacker because, I'm not a Nakobe Dean guy, but at the end of the day, when I hear people who are in the know, multiple, not just John McMullen, but a couple other guys we had on the show, they're like, they're still on the Nakobe Dean train. Trust me, when he's healthy, he's going to be in there. So, but here's the question. So let's just say for a second, okay, Nakobe is going to be your Mike. It's going to be Devin and Zach battling it out for your will.
No.
That's what it looks like it's going to be if they're putting Nakobe in there. Nakobe's not going to play weak side linebacker.
No way. Vic Fangio is not going to put a guy he can't count on in there.
Yeah, but
that's why Reddick is no longer here. He's not going to put that guy in. You know what let me tell you what happens to Vic Fangio's credibility. If he starts somebody that doesn't deserve to be in the room, you lose credibility with the rest of your 10.
Well, we don't know. Let's see. Listen, we got to see on Nakobe Dean. I will say, and I'm with you. I'm almost basically completely fed up with it. But he does have some traits that Vic Fangio likes. He's a really smart football IQ guy, smart player, instinctual, very instinctual. Now, I'm not saying he showed a lot in the pros. I'm just saying from a trait standpoint, Vic does like that style of player, especially for somebody who's going to be in the middle of your defense, potentially calling things out. So with communication,
everything on an evaluation seat when it comes to everything that's not on the field. Smart, he gets it. Hey, but what about durability, size, being able to take on being able to take on guards at 205 pounds, whatever he looks like? I mean, that guy looks like the kicker on your team looks bigger, Zander. I mean, he's a little dude. You have the smallest linebacking core right now. So overall, are you more optimistic about the upcoming season after what's happened these 6 weeks as you're getting ready 50 days out? It's 50 days, actually, from today to the start of training camp on July 27th.
I'm more optimistic with a caveat. I'm optimistic, but I'm concerned with the pressure breaking the pipe with Nick Sirianni because he's still the head of this thing. You know, like we're not going to have a successful season if there's instability at head coach. I'm not saying there definitely is going to be, but I think the offense is going to get it. I'm not that worried about the offense struggling in camp. Come on, it's helmets and shorts here. It's a brand new offense. I think with all that talent, the offense is going to be good. How good is the question? They're going to be good. I would say the floor for them would be 8th overall offense in the league, what they were last year. That's got to be your absolute floor. And the defense is looking like they're going to be better than we anticipated. Some of these young guys are stepping up more than we thought they were going to. Vic Fangio has proven that he seems to be right now the right guy for the defense. He's relating to a lot of the young guys who are going to make or break that defense. I'm optimistic from a playing standpoint. I'm a little bit pessimistic on the head coach.
I love how he just dissected that. Did you hear that? The offense struggled. Don't worry about it. Hey, I'm really optimistic about the defense and helmets and shorts, though. Those guys were great. Holy shit. Big Bill. That's Big Bill right there. Hey, man, that was awesome there. By the way, Zander, you guys are killing it on Birds, man. I mean, really great coverage, man. Really great stuff. I love that you're the new addition here, and you made the whole network younger too by doing that stuff. So I know you got a ton of stuff to do here as you are a one-man. He's like the dude out front of Madison Square Garden with the tambourine. He's got the drums. He's got the big drum, and he's also selling hot dogs. Not that shit over there where the Phillies sell them hot dogs, but he's selling really good ballpark hot dogs. So, bro, thank you very much. Before you get out of here, where are we in the likes, my friend?
Let me get that number. Thanks for having me on, but we're at 111. Thanks for having me on, Sills. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We got the best viewers, and they're always good on this segment. I always enjoy reading their comments. So thank you guys, and appreciate you having me on, Big Sills.
You got it, man. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.